Hey everybody, Pastor T back with you with our verse of the day daily devotional, and today we're going to be in Colossians, and we're going to be looking at the 8th verse. So I'm going to read it, and then we're going to kind of go back and give a little bit of context here. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church at Colossae, writes these words. He says, "But now put away all of the following." I love that. Put away all of the following. Before we even read the rest of the verse, I think you have to hear this. Paul uses a lot of really cool imagery, and he speaks of almost like putting on clothes and taking off clothes. He says, take off these clothes, and then he's going to tell us what to take off. Anger, wrath. Wrath, looking up that word in the Greek, it actually means excitedness of mind. You know, when you are full of wrath, your mind is just excited about, getting back or getting to someone. Malice, slander, and filthy language from your mouth. Paul, if we go back just a few verses, and I want to jump back up into verse 5, he says, "Therefore put to death what belongs to your earthly nature." He says, when you only had your earthly nature, these were the clothes that you wore. This is how you dealt with one another. This is how you talked. This is how you spoke. This is how you interacted with each other. But now, because of Christ, you have a new nature. So he says, we need to take off these clothes. What really gets us into trouble with each other more than our words, the things that we say, the assumptions that we make and responding out of those things? Paul says, put away all of those things, because that has nothing to do with the nature of God. It is probably one of the hardest things that we do in life is human relationship. And it is really easy to lash out to people with our words and the things that we say about them, probably even easier than physical violence, because we don't always see the wounds behind what we say to and about one another. But I'm going to tell you this, family, that what we say to and about one another, there are wounds there, and sometimes those wounds are deep and festering, and they do not go away easily. So Paul saying, if you're Christ, with this new nature, we now have Christ's nature. So with Christ's nature, he says, get undressed with these things that identified us with the world: anger and malice and wrath and speaking falsely about one another. He says those should not be things that define who we are. And I always find it interesting that often in the New Testament especially, that they come back to this theme of the things that come out of our mouths. We sometimes look so much at the things that we do physically from a sin standpoint, but we miss that our mouth, it gets us into way much more trouble than a lot of other things. So Paul is reminding us today that because Christ is now the new nature, we don't have to walk around in those old raggedy earthly clothes, anger and wrath and slander and those kinds of things, but that we should speak in a way that identifies us as being Christ. So I hope this helps you today. If somebody speaks to you in a way that is probably earthly, you don't have to respond in kind. So I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Later.